name is LUCIA BINTI AJEMI from CFAP1266A, and today I will be presenting about the federal and state constitutions in Malaysia. The journey towards the federal constitution began in January 1956, when leaders met at the ANAK conference to discuss the path to Malaya's independence. During this conference, it was agreed that a constitutional commission would be appointed to draft the nation's first constitution. The work of the Constitutional Commission laid the legal foundation for an independent nation. When Malaya gained independence in 1957, the federal constitution came into force and has continued to serve as the highest law of Malaysia, guiding the country's governance and protecting the right of its people. The constitution establishes Malaysia as a constitutional monarchy. In this system, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong serves as the head of state. Although the king performs important constitutional duties, the country is governed democratically, led by the prime minister and the cabinet. Malaysia adopts a federal system of government where power is divided between the federal government and the state government. In theory, this means that both levels of government have their own legislative, executive, judicial, and financial powers as provided under the federal constitution. The states are intended to function as semi-autonomous entities, managing matters that have been assigned to them by the Constitution. However, in practice, Malaysia's federal system is considered to be highly centralized. The federal constitution grants broad powers to the federal government, allowing it to exercise significant influence over the state. This is generally true across the country, although Sabah and Sarawak enjoy greater autonomy due to their special constitutional status. Next, I will explain about the principle of constitutional supremacy and its relationship with national sovereignty in Malaysia. The national sovereignty is closely linked to the principle of constitutional supremacy. The federal constitution serves as the foundation of Malaysia's legal and political system. It provides the framework for how the country is governed by defining the structure of government, distributing powers among its institutions, and setting out the fundamental principles that guide the nation. If any law passed after independence is found to be inconsistent with the federal constitution, the law is considered invalid to the extent of the inconsistency.
Hi, my name is UMAIRAH, and now let's move to autonomy and federal state government. Autonomy means that both the federal and state governments have their own powers and responsibility under the federal constitution. In simple words, each level of government is allowed to manage the matters that are assigned to them. For example, the federal government is responsible for national matters such as defense, finance, foreign affairs, and education. Meanwhile, the state government is responsible for matters like land, forestry, water resources, local government, and Islamic affairs. Even though they have different responsibilities, they also share many similarities. Both governments get their power from the federal constitution, which is the highest law in Malaysia. Next, each government has its own minister, department, and agency to provide public service and carry out government functions. Besides that, both have legislative bodies that make law within their own areas of responsibility. They also implement government's policy and make sure that laws are enforced properly. Yet, another similarity is that both governments prepare budget and manage public funds. This is important because the funds are used to provide public service and support development projects. Both governments work together to improve the quality life of the people. They cooperate in many development projects and public programs to achieve national state and development goals. So now, I will continue with the next session, Constitutional Supremacy of Federal and State Government. Constitutional supremacy means that the federal constitution is the highest law in Malaysia. This means that every law, policy, and government decisions must be followed the constitutions. Although both governments are subject to the constitution, there are some differences between them. The federal government has wider power because it deals with national matters that affect the whole country. On the other hand, the state government only manages matters that fall under its own jurisdictions. For example, Parliament makes law on national issue, while the state legislative assembly makes law on matters related to the state. The federal government is also responsible for nationwide policy and major development projects. In comparison, the state government focuses more on local administrations and development that meets the needs of its own state. Even with these differences, both governments must always follow the federal constitutions. If any law goes against the Constitution, the court have the power to declare
Hello
it
everyone,
invalid.
my name is TIHANI BINTI JULASBI and I am from CFAP1266A. So today I would like to explain what is tort law. Imagine a construction worker gets injured because proper safety measures were not provided. Or imagine a nearby building is damaged because of careless construction work. Who should be responsible for the damage? There is where tort law comes in. Hello everyone, today I would like to be presenting the role of tort law in Malaysian construction project. Tort law is a type of civil law that deals with a situation where someone's action causes harm, injury, or loss to another person. Unlike contract law, tort law can still apply even when the people involved have never signed any agreement with each other. In the construction industry, where many people, properties, and activities are involved, tort law plays an important role in protecting everyone from unnecessary harm. Now, let's move on to the history of tort law. Before we understand how tort law works today, let's look at where it comes from. Malaysian tort law was heavily influenced by the English common law during the British colonial period. Back then, Malaysian courts often referred to the English legal principles when handling disputes. Important cases such as Kamu versus Thomas Turner Bassett and Government of Perak versus A.R. Adams helped establish the foundation of tort law in Malaysia. Over time, this principle evolved and became part of Malaysian own legal system. Today, tort law continues to guide how courts resolve disputes involving negligence and wrongful act. Now, let's go to the next slide, which is tort law versus contract law versus criminal law. So many people confuse tort law with the contract law and criminal law, but they are actually very different. Let's make it simple. Contract law is about the broken promises if two parties agree on something and one side fails to fulfill the agreement that become a contract issue. Criminal law is about offenses against society such as theft, assault, or fraud. In these cases, the government takes action against the offender. Tort law is different. It focuses on harm caused to another person, whether through carelessness or wrongful action. For example, if a contractor negligence caused a wall to collapse or damage a neighbor property, the affected owner may bring a tort claim. Tort law is mainly about protecting people from suffering losses caused by others. So, why is tort law important? First, it helps victims receive compensation. If someone suffers injuries, property damage, or financial losses because of another person's action, tort laws allow them to claim compensation. Second, tort law encourages people to be more careful, knowing that they could face legal consequences, motivates contracts, engineers, and developers to follow safety standards and act responsible. Third, tort law helps distribute losses through insurance system, reducing the financial burdens on victims. Without tort law, many victims would have no legal remedy when harm occurs.
Hi, my name is ELVYNIE and I'm from CFAP1266A. And today I will be presenting my report on tort law in the Malaysian construction industry. In this presentation, I will explain the three main tort doctrines, their application in construction projects, a real case study, and the recommendations for reducing legal risk. Let's take a look at the backgrounds on Malaysian tort law doctrines. So, let me identify the three main tort doctrines, which are negligence, trespass, and nuisance. The first doctrine is negligence. Negligence means failing to exercise reasonable care, resulting in injury or damage to another person. There are four important elements of negligence. The first is duty of care, where a person has a legal responsibility to avoid causing harm. The second is breach of duty, which means the person failed to meet the required standard of care. The third is causation, where the breach directly caused the damage. The last element is damages, meaning the victim suffered actual loss or injury. A well-known example is the Highland Towers collapse, where poor drainage and slow maintenance resulted in a tragic building collapse. The second doctrine is trespass. Trespass means entering another person's property without permission. There are three types of trespass, which is the first is trespass to land, the second is trespass to goods, the third is trespass to the person. In construction, an example is when a contractor uses a neighboring piece of land as an access route without obtaining the owner's permission. Even if no serious damage occurs, the contractor may still be legally liable. The last doctrine is nuisance. Nuisance refers to activities that interfere with another person's use or enjoyment of their property. There are two types of nuisance, which is private nuisance and public nuisance. Private nuisance affects an individual property owner, and public nuisance affects the community or the general public. Common examples in construction include excessive dust, loud noise, strong vibrations, and blocking public roads. Construction companies should minimize this disturbance to avoid legal actions. Next, I would like to share one of the most well-known construction cases in Malaysia, the Highland Towers case. The incident happened on 11 December 1993 when Block 1 of Highland Towers collapsed due to a landslide caused by poor drainage, slope instability, and inadequate maintenance. Sadly, 48 people lost their lives, making it one of the worst construction disasters in Malaysia. Following the tragedy, the residents filed a lawsuit known as Stephen Paul Chen Lun and ORS versus Highland Properties Syndrome Berhad and ORS, which was decided by the High Court in 2000. The court found the several parties, including the developer and other responsible parties, had breached their duty of care and were negligent. As a result, they were held liable and ordered to compensate the victims. This case highlights the importance of proper planning, regular site inspections, and compliance with safety regulations to prevent similar tragedies in future construction projects. Let me move to the risk mitigation strategies. To reduce construction risk, several strategies should be implemented. First, conduct proper soil investigations before construction begins. Second, carry out regular site inspections and monitoring. Third, appoint qualified engineers, architects, and contractors. These measures help identify hazards early and reduce the possibility of accidents and legal disputes. Based on this report, there are several recommendations. First, strengthen risk management throughout the project. Second, improve legal compliance with Malaysian law. Third, enhance site supervision and quality control. Fourth, reduce environmental impacts such as dust and noise. Finally, provide continuous legal and safety training for construction personnel. These recommendations can reduce legal risk and improve project performance.
In conclusion, both tort law and division of constitutional powers between the federal and state governments play important roles in supporting the construction industry in Malaysia. Tort law provides an important legal framework by ensuring that everyone involved in construction projects carries out their responsibilities with reasonable care. This helps protect workers' property owners and the public while encouraging safer construction practices. At the same time, the federal constitution clearly divides legislative powers between the federal and state governments. The federal government is responsible for matters such as labor, workplace safety, and environmental protection, while the state governments oversee land administration, local authorities, and planning approval. The combination of tort law and the constitutional divisions of powers creates a balanced legal framework for the construction industry. Together, they protect the right of stakeholders, promote safe and responsible development, and ensure that construction projects are carried out in accordance with the law and in the best interest of the public. That's the end of our presentation for today. Thank you for your attention.